Hey, what's up? This is Gary from Raz Rentals, and holy crap! What's this? A brand new Super 7 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimates standard action figure? Why, I never thought I'd live to see the day! This Genghis Frog action figure is part of Wave 8, and I got this in October of 2023. The last wave we saw was Wave 6 in October of 2022. Wave 8 was put up for pre-order all the way back in August of 2022. So altogether, this action figure took 14 months to be released. Even worse, Wave 7 was put up for pre-order all the way back in March of 2022, and it's been pushed back to May of 2024. What the fudge? 2 years and 2 months? Jeez. Originally, and even now, this action figure costs $55. Jeez. I ordered mine a week ago at Big Bad Toy Store because I missed the initial pre-order, and now I'm slowly buying the wave, I didn't feel like getting hit with a large amount of money all at once, Not to mention, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimates these days don't sell out very quickly, if ever. So I'll take my time to get Space Cadet Raph and Robotic Rocksteady. So sorry for any of you guys out there hoping for a review soon. It's going to take a bit. Now, usually when I review these Ultimates action figures, you start off with the figure in a brown mailer, but Wave 8 is the first wave not to include brown mailers. So Genghis here came in a plastic bag, and that was it, I don't mind the missing mailer, but eventually we'll see these standard releases cut out these slipcovers. And to me, that's a big mistake, especially for big fans of this series. I feel like this look right here is what people expect. It's part of the brand. And this slipcover, protects the bubble inside. And if I collected, 6 times 4 is 24, plus a couple of other things. I don't know, 30 action figures, and they all had slipcovers. And then you started not including the slipcovers. That would irritate the crap out of me. I don't keep them, but I'm sure there are, from what I've seen when I put up my glow-in-the-dark Slash review, when they cut out both the mailer and the slipcover already, people were irritated by it. So, Super 7, rethink the slipcover. So, here is a close-up of the Genghis manhole logo on the front of this slipcover. On the front here, it also says ages 14 plus, Super 7. And on the back, it just has the Ninja Turtle logo. Contents, one figure with accessories, and Super 7. Boy, Nickelodeon did not get a mention. Can you believe that? They're on the bottom right there. So hopefully they're not mad. When you remove the slipcover, you will find one of the zaniest action figures in this entire Ultimates line. Off the bat, this dude just looks amazing. He looks just like the old toy. And I love the extra, wash on this skin tone. I showed my son this action figure yesterday, and he was like, wow, they made him look realistic. So I do appreciate that. I like all the colors and everything like that. But there is one thing that I would change. Just one part of his body that I think the proportion is a little off. And no, surprisingly, it's not the head. I think the head is perfect. But I'll get into it when I do the side-by-side comparison between this guy and the original action figure from 1989. I do kind of think his face looks a little monstrous, though. He looks like the type of frog who would, knock you unconscious and eat you while you're still alive. He's freaking me out. But I still like it. This head, even though he looks really angry, I kind of feel like that looks like the face he would have had if he was released in 1990 when the series got crazier. So, the window here is nice and big, which is perfect to display your mint-on-card action figure if that's all you want him for. You can see all of his accessories included, which is nice. Also, I guess I should point out, starting with this wave, Wave 8, or maybe even starting with Wave 7, they cut back on the weapons racks, so those are gone. And I also think, most of the action figures from the earlier waves would have included some other kind of weird weapons or something. I don't know. It just seems like just sort of the minimum, or they're just kind of trying to replicate what you had with the 88 figure. We'll get more into accessories. I think there is something that they could have included, but we'll get into it. If you turn around and look on the back, it reads, Genghis Frog, the tubular surfing dude. Genghis Frog, once a humble native tadpole, was accidentally mutated, then intentionally tricked by the evil Shredder to join his cohorts in horror. All right, well, those faces make perfect sense now. Once exposed to the sinister, wicked ways of the Shredder, Genghis soon realized the turtles were his true friends. Now, this radical amphibious leader of the frogs is showing everyone his true colors. He's a sewer surfer fool and courageous dude who doesn't mind riding the waves to splash the foot, undaunted by the fear of croaking. Genghis Frog arms himself with his tongue gun to lick the evil Shredder. I won't lick him, he's covered in spikes. You kidding me? So that is that. You know, on the top there just says Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and on the bottom it just says, like I said, Nickelodeon and the usual stuff that's not really important, because all we really care about is this dude inside of here. So now it's time for me to open him up and see what I can see. So here he is, free from his prison of cardboard and plastic, ready to leap the distance. Win or lose, sink or swim, one thing's certain, this crazy-looking mutant frog will never give in, you know? I can just picture it now. This incredible-looking amphibian shooting this tongue gun at his latest victim. All I gotta say is, Scumbug and Baxter, you better pack up your things and leave town, because this guy looks hungry. Could you imagine if this guy, this Genghis frog, was a Pac-Man frog? Like, nobody in the world would be safe. He'd devour us all. So, this guy just looks amazing. You know, I love the sculpt. I love how defined all of these bumps are on his skin. Not to mention, all the texture really stands out because of the wash. And do you know what all these bumps are on the frog's skin? They are mucus glands, because frogs secrete a lubricant so that their skin doesn't dry. So, you know, this guy is gross. I don't want to touch him, but whatever. So let's take a closer look at the brand new Super 7 Ultimates Genghis Frog next to the original one and see how well they copied and expanded upon the original design. If you take your brand new Super 7 Genghis Frog and put him next to your 1989 Playmates action figure, you will no doubt leap for joy. In many ways, he looks like your old toy grew up and matured. So let's take a look at both of these guys from top to bottom. Genghis has his trademark large blue eyes, his large pupilless eyes. Freaks me out. One thing I find a little interesting is they changed the shape of the glare. You know, here it's circular, and on the original one, it's, you know, a sharp glare. You know, it looks like somebody cut a piece of the pie out of there. Another thing that's interesting is, you know, on the original one, I think that there are eyelids there, but they were painted white because, you know, they just did a little bit of a sloppy job. But here you can see the eyelids very sharp and very clean. You know, there's a pretty clean distinction between the eyelid and the actual eye itself. I also do like how the eyeball has, you know, it's painted in a glossy type of paint. It's different than the skin texture. Now, they didn't copy all of the bumps on his body exactly, you know, but they kept most of the important, I guess, bumps, you know, like this one right here underneath his mouth. I think if you, like, squint your eyes a little bit, you'll see that, like, the general shape is sort of there. Like, certain things like here, there's a big one right there. It looks like there's a big one right there. There's just way more bumps on this original Genghis. But his, like, underneath the bumps, his skin is smooth. And this guy, even though he has less bumps, his skin is very bumpy. You know, there's like a texture all over it, which is pretty nice. If you look at his mouth, they added a lot of really nice detail around the mouth here. Like, you have like all these little bumps and stuff around the teeth. That's pretty great. On the original one, it was just smooth, you know. Now, if you look at the teeth, it's like they kept the shape of the teeth, right? Like, if you were just looking at the teeth and you just see that white, you would count the same number of teeth that he has in his mouth. But if you actually took a closer look at the original action figure, he had many teeth. They just painted in the space between most of them. So, I don't know. I guess maybe they were lazy about the paint apps back then. On the front of the face here, they added like a little bit of a dip to the mouth. You know, even though he's still smiling, it sort of changes like his personality a little bit, where this one is just like super happy, but this one, that little dip gives him a little more character and kind of makes him look a little more lifelike. I don't know, the face on the brand new one is just fantastic, you know, even like the little details around the nostrils and everything just looks so nice. Like I said, the original one was simple, but still good, you know. And I always like this, you know, you have this little crease underneath the frog's neck. That's there on the brand new one as well. Below the head, you can see Genghis's necklace. I used to think that this was a shark tooth necklace, but on this brand new one, that does not look like a shark tooth at all. It is much too thick to be a shark tooth. It looks like some kind of gold medallion or something like that. Now, it looks good, and they did a good job of trying to recreate the shape of, you know, like this necklace sort of drooping down into this one. You know, it's similar to that. The biggest difference is on the new one, he only has 3 necklaces, and on the original one, he is wearing 4. The new Genghis frog shirt looks pretty cool. They added buttons going down the middle right here, and there's even some buttonholes on the other side. The whole thing is covered in a very nice fabric-y texture. That looks good. They matched all the shapes pretty well. You know, like you got the lightning bolts on the front here. But they did change some of them. Like, if you were looking at some of the shapes on his shirts, I don't know, they appeared more like flowers. But then as they like put them on this new one, like look at this one. It's just sort of like a glob. They made it more of like a star on this one. Same thing with over here. It's like you got a glob right there, and on this one, it's pretty much a star. You know, different type of shape right there too. On the back, like these lightning bolts are, you know, they have a more distinct shape. But these ones look like pretty much the same exact shape, except they just kind of rotated it and put it down here a little bit. And I like how this this like flower face up here has got a little face. He's got little teeth in there. And it's nice you actually have like the, you know, the negative space painted in the eyes and inside of the mouth. It's kind of funny. I wonder why it was such a weird little detail that they thought to include back in the day. So here's my main criticism with this guy. The criticism that I mentioned at the beginning of this. I just wish that his torso was wider, you know, like, I think his shoulders seem too close together. I think on the original action figure, they were nice and wide, and the head looked like it was sort of shrunken into the shoulders. You can kind of do that with him a little bit, but then you like start to cover up the necklace. But I just think that because like the original one has got such a wider build up here, it makes him look more frog-like. You know, he just seems a little too thin. And even though he still looks like a frog, it could have just been a little wider and better. And if you look at the original pre-order shots, you'll notice that Genghis frog model there, or whatever they have on that picture, he's actually squished a little bit. You know, he's shrunken downward a little bit, just like Casey Jones was whenever you look at the pre-orders of the Casey Jones, right? And there, I think he looks better. You know, his face looks a little wider and his shoulders look a little wider. And I think that's a better look for a frog, because even if you come back to the toy, you'll look at the face of the original Genghis. His head is a little wider, you know, like the teeth kind of stick out beyond the nose. But this guy, because his face is kind of skinnier, the teeth just hide behind that mouth or nose. Genghis's sleeves are a lot tighter than they used to be. I think the stitching around here is a very nice touch. And of course, again, like I said, there is a little bit of a fabric texture, which is nice, just different. If you look at his arms, you know, the original one had bumps like all over the place. Like there are so many bumps all over. They really cut back on the bumps on the new sculpt. Same thing with both sides of the arm. But they still look good. You know, the amount of bumps they have on here still looks nice. It's just there was a ton more on the original guy. And the other thing you'll notice is, you know, the original Genghis did not have any muscle definition really on his arm. But Genghis here, he is built off of the... Like, his arm is built off of the Ninja Turtle arms. You can tell by looking at the muscle shapes that they just sort of took this, you know, Ninja Turtle arm and warped it, scaled it to get it to look like this. And then added some bumps and this nice froggy texture. But yeah, that is like the same, you know, it's built off of this forearm zero here. The watch looks really good. The face is painted, which looks really great. I think they did a good job matching the same style of band. Although I will say it's a little weird that they did not put the same time on the watches, you know. On the original one, it looks more like it's 9:30. And on the new one, it looks like it's 2:45. On the other side, he has this golden bracelet. And, you know, it's good. You know, there's not really much to it on the original one or on this brand new one. It's just a nice little golden band. I would say it's a little further up on the arm right here. But down here is just a-okay. I think one of the best new things about Genghis is his finger shapes. You know, on the original one, the fingers are a little pointy. You have a little bit of a, I don't know, like a webbing between the fingers. But on this brand new one, I feel like it looks so much more like frog fingers, right? Because the tips bulge a lot, the knuckles bulge a lot, and then it kind of tapers in on these middle sections and gets skinny. You know, that looks so much like what you would expect from a frog, and I think that it's really cool. All right, so now we're going to move down to Genghis's trunks. And I just wanted to show you like this beaten up one because I don't feel like taking off the belt of my good one and then trying to put it back on, because even though I'm an adult now, it's still such a pain in the ass trying to get the pegs in these belts to go in all the way. I don't know, I find it very irritating even now. But if you look at the original trunks, you have like this slit down the front, and they did that, you know, they added this little cut down there. Although in the original one, I will say, in this little gap right here, it's his skin tone. And here it's just yellow, because this is just one yellow piece. The other thing is, like, if you look at his belly, like, it kind of sticks out a little bit, like a frog belly. But this one has got, like, this slit down the middle of it. I wonder if that's, you know, almost looks like like, what his back would have, like, or something like that. Like, where your spine would be. So if we go back to the good one, and we continue to talk about the trunks. I don't know, these brand new trunks are a little bit of a mixed bag in my opinion. My biggest problem with them is the weird gaps you get, right? These are supposed to be baggy shorts, and I don't know what they could have done differently because I'm not a toy engineer, but as you try to pose him, you get all these gaps. You know, it's very distracting and looks a little strange. You know, if you're running, you get gaps. You're leaping through the air, you get these gaps. What could they have done differently? I don't know, but it can be a little distracting, I think. You know, and of course the other thing is the different colors. I assume that's because of Playmates meddling, you know, telling them that they can't make it look exactly like the original action figure, that they had to change it to yellow and red, like McDonald's colors, as opposed to yellow and this, I don't know, what would you call that? Magenta? Rose? Something like that, you know? Even the watch, I forgot to mention that earlier, but the watch was originally this magenta color, and now it's the red that's on the shorts. In my opinion, I don't know, I think that they should have went with a cooler color, you know, maybe made it yellow and purple or something like that, like a darker purple. Because at the moment, I don't know, I kind of feel like this red and bright yellow clash with the rest of the colors. I just kind of think like this cooler color, you know, somewhere in between red and purple, it goes better with this green and the blue and the yellow, you know. It all seems to be working together, but this It's very warm, you know, like the yellow and the red. It's, I don't know, just a little too bright or something. And here's the back of the shorts. Now, if you look at his legs, the legs have the same thing going on that the arms have going on, all right? Because, you know, the original one has these smooth frog legs. There's bumps all over. And they did manage to, you know, put a decent amount of bumps on these legs, which is nice. Can't complain about that. But the big difference is, of course, is that this brand new Genghis frog, his legs are just jacked, right? And that's because, again, they built the legs off of these pre-existing Ninja Turtle legs. And like you can tell, right? You can tell by the way the muscles are proportioned, and you can tell by like the shin bone here and stuff like that, that they just took that original design and modified it a bit, you know, just like they did with Slash and just like they did with Ray Fillet, and I'm not sure, maybe somebody else, but yeah. So instead of having the smooth frog legs, he's got these super jack legs. Now, I don't know, in my opinion, which I like better. I do like that he has more natural looking frog legs in the original one, but this guy is a little bigger. And maybe he hasn't been skipping leg day for the past 34 years. Brand new to this Super 7 Ultimates action figure, they painted the anklet. They went with yellow, which is okay. You know, that checks out. And then the feet. You know, the feet are more defined than they used to be. Like he used to have sort of like froggy cartoon feet. But the brand new ones, the toes are more defined. You have like these bulbous ends. The only thing that I would say that I'm a little unsure of is like the lip around the bottom of the foot. I understand what they're trying to do here. You know, they're trying to make it look maybe like it's sort of squished down at the bottom. And I don't know. I kind of think it could be a little weird looking, but I also been trying to picture in my head what it would look like without that little lip there, and I think like that would look even weirder, you know, like if you just had this shape around here, like they had to add this lip to make it look right. I should also mention that the bottoms of the feet are now fully realized and you know, sculpted pretty nicely. They even have some peg holes, but unfortunately the pegs on Mikey's surfboard are too big and they don't fit the peg holes. And there's no pegs on the Boogie board, so what's the point? So all in all, I think this guy does a pretty good job of copying the details of the original one and expanding upon them. You know, some things, of course, with a lot of Super 7 stuff, like they sort of simplify things, you know, as I said, some of the shapes on the shirt, but they also, you know, expanded upon things like some of the details in the hands that look really nice, or the feet, or the face around the mouth. And really, it's like, you know, your opinion. Do you prefer the much smoother frog-like appendages of the original Genghis, or do you like the more jacked body parts, like on this Ultimates action figure? He kind of reminds me of like Rocksteady, you know, the same sort of thing they did with him, where they put so much more detail and wrinkles all over his body, really gave like a nice texture to his shirt and everything like that, and put a wash on his body to make him look very realistic. In some ways, he sort of stands apart from some of the more cartoony looking Ultimates, but I don't know, he's just a very cool looking action figure. So all I can say is I'm pretty happy with him. And now we're going to go into articulation, because I'm sure a lot of people want to know what's up with this dude. You know, are there any problems? So your original Genghis Frog action figure from 1989 had pretty standard Ninja Turtle articulation. You know, 7 points. 1, the head spins around. 2 and 3, the shoulders can swivel around. 4 and 5, you always have a point right in the middle of the forearm, or maybe the elbow. Here he's got them in the middle of the forearm. And then 6 and 7, you have ball jointed hips. I think that his stance is okay, but it also can be pretty annoying trying to get him to stand because he's got one of these stupid like Donatello feet. But in general, he stands pretty well. It just depends on, I think, the surface you try to put him on. If your shelf is a little angled, he's going to fall over sometimes. But in general, he's not the worst. So with the brand new Super 7 Genghis Frog, lots of the problems you had with the past Ultimates action figures, you're going to find with this guy, unfortunately. Some of these things include joints not bending a full 90 degrees, or just loose joints. Like the arm can be a little loose until you get to up here where it's a little tighter, and then maybe down here it gets tighter, right? I'll show you the problem with that right now. The problem is if you try to put the boogie board into his hand, any pose here, it's just gonna until you get to here, it's just gonna fall down because it's too heavy. Unfortunately, in the original pictures for the pre-order of this thing, this boogie board was actually, I don't know, almost half the size. I don't know why they made it so much bigger for this actual release. I think maybe if it was a little smaller and matched the original toy, that maybe this wouldn't be such a big deal. Maybe it wouldn't be as heavy and that he would be able to hold it up. So, unless people are attacking from above, it's kind of pointless to have that shield. If you put the tongue gun in his other hand, it works out a little better. But this is, this tongue gun is much bigger than the original tongue gun too. The problem with this special tongue gun gripping hand is that it doesn't get as tight of a grip on the gun that you would want. But he's still holding it okay. And I'm sure, as you can see, I'm having problems with the hips, all right? Because the hips are also pretty loose. You can feel a faint ratchet joint in there, but he's still sliding around. I think because Genghis is a frog, you want him to be squatting, You don't want him standing straight up like this. It doesn't look right for a frog character. You want him to be squatting down, but sometimes that works better for him because the hips are loose. Squatting, the legs are now pushed up further into this joint, so they can't really push out much further, but I don't know. You're still going to have some problems. The other problem is the knee joint swivel is loose, right? So I was trying to get him to run, but the problem is if you're trying to get him to run, the swivel of the knee isn't tight enough to actually support him unless you balance it perfectly. The ankle joint is pretty decent. But yeah, the swivel of the knee is very loose, and so are the hips. So getting him to pose, is going to be a little tricky. You can balance him, and you can try to find the right place to balance him, and it'll work out for you. But certain things like the boogie board, it really, I don't know, it throws it off, that being such a loose shoulder joint. But all right, down to the technical things about it. He has a ball at the base of his head, and there's a ball in the base of the neck. So I do like that you can really get his neck hunched forward and have him looking more like a frog. I feel like if it's up too high, it's not as frog-like. So it's nice putting it down as far as possible. But then you start to cover the necklace up a little bit. The shoulders have a swivel, and they have a hinge. I mean, the hinge feels like it has a nice ratchet in there. Then the elbow joint, like I said, does not bend 90 degrees, but it seems pretty solid. Swivel doesn't seem very loose. The wrist swivels, and then you have a hinge right there. Same deal with the other side. You have a ball joint right here in the upper torso, which works out well. And then there's a waist cut, so you can swivel him around. Then the hips have a hinge, and they can rotate forward. you have a swivel right here, which is, as I said, can be very loose, both this way and this way. It's just not a lot of friction there, The knee joints have a hinge, they swivel, and then the ankles have a hinge and ankle rockers. The ankle rockers seem pretty stiff, but maybe I haven't worn them down a little bit yet. So I don't know. It's a mixed bag sort of thing, with a lot of these Ultimates action figures, you look at them and you're like, they look amazing, but trying to get them to pose can be a little tricky. And I do understand that, these aren't meant to be super posable action figures, but sometimes you just want them to be in basic poses of, holding the shield up straight like this, or running, or, maybe like a kicking pose or something like that. And it's going to be a little bit of work to try to get him to do those things. Now, let's go over Genghis's accessories. And I'm actually excited for this because I have a lot to say about some of these items, And we're going to start off with one accessory that you'll most likely always leave on him, the Beach Bandelier with cola can grenades. The Beach Bandelier looks pretty good, There's some nice details on this that make it look like the original one. Like if you spin it around, you can see the buckle here. Mine must be upside down, but it's like the same thing. The buckle's the same. The shape of the belt itself is just very similar. Even these lines going along the top and the bottom of the bandolier are all the same. At first I was like, green instead of black? Like, what's up with that? But then I learned recently that Playmates actually did release some green bandolier variants of Genghis Frog. Now, I'm pretty sure that this was a mistake. And I'm like 100% sure that, Super7 didn't plan on this being some variant nod, In fact, I think with Playmates, the factory just used some Ace Duck weapons belts for a little bit. Maybe because they ran out of the black ones or something like that. The original Ace Duck, his weapons belt is the same exact mold as the Beach Bandolier. They came out the same year and they both have the same belt, just different colors. And I'm sure that Super7 didn't know this, because otherwise they would have probably just reused their Ultimates Ace Duck belt instead of sculpting this brand new one right here. The good thing about the Ace Duck weapons belt is that you can actually remove the egg grenades. You can pop them out just like that. That, probably is also one of the reasons why Super7 didn't just give him a black version of this, because Super7 made the cola can grenades unremovable. Like, they look great. The colors look nice. I love the pins and the handles and stuff up here. Even the bottoms, the silver. That all looks good, but you can't take these out. This is just like one big piece of vinyl, or it's pretty rubbery. And that's a huge bummer. I find it especially disappointing because Super7 originally advertised on their website that the grenades were removable, And they even sent out that same info to, the online retailers like Big Bad Toy Store. It says it right there. Now, I guess I should have known that they would be unremovable because no loose grenades were ever pictured in any of these shots of Genghis. But seriously, you put it in writing, and I'm sure everybody was expecting at least one or two loose grenades. The cola can grenades were pretty cool. They're a little difficult to pull out of the original bandolier, but they're just blue, and it would have been nice to at least have a couple. The original Genghis Frog had 4 strapped on his belt. I think that these things, kids lost them all the time back in the day. And this brand new one, he's got 6. He is really loaded up with those things. Up next, you have the Surfin' Shades. Now, these look nice, and they're shaped a little differently than the original ones. but they're very similar, and in my opinion, they just look perfect. You know, I like the black lenses. You know, there's not much to say about them. The only thing that is, I think, way better about these shades is, you know, on the original action figure, it's a pain in the ass to try to balance them on his face. Like, they don't actually lock in place, and they just always fall off. You see that crap? But the brand new Genghis, it seems... Of course, it didn't go on there as easily as I had hoped. I think that there are actual... Yeah, I mean, before when I tried to do it, it seemed as though the arms of the glasses would go back here and kind of lock on these bumps. See, that's pretty good. There we go. That way they don't fall off. Oh, man. You know, the original Genghis can't stand, and he can't support the glasses. That's, I don't know, that's one of the biggest problems I have with that original Genghis action figure is all the times I'll have him set up on my shelf, and then I'll walk past him, and the shades will be on the ground. Up next, you have the tongue gun. And proportionally, this thing is just huge compared to the original one. I mean, look at this. This is a nice little compact design. This tongue is gigantic, you know, and the tongue is actually two pieces. You have the plunger connects right here to this longer piece of tongue. It's just huge, and it weighs a lot. It's pretty heavy. But I do like some of the added details. Like if you look at the top here, there's some... I don't know, like a nice track or something like that right there on the sights or in front of the sights. There's even a trigger, a very small trigger there on the handle. I like that the tongue looks a little more specifically like a frog tongue. You know, the original tongue is just kind of like I don't know, I guess it could be a frog tongue, but it just looks like a plain old tongue. This one gets kind of like fat down here at the bottom. That reminds me more of like a tongue or a frog tongue when you see it like catching a fly and stuff like that. The colors on this are nice. I like the, you know, I mean, the lips are the same color as Genghis's skin. The other thing I would say, like, if you look at the lips on the original one, they actually look like lips. You know, they kind of poof out a little bit. This new tongue gun here, they are just flat. And there's not really much of anything to note on this side compared to the other side. I think maybe these details might be a little different on this side. Yeah. The original tongue gun, you could bring in the tongue pretty far and push it back out with the plunger. This one, not so much. Like, you can get to about here and push it out that much. The problem is, as you pull this in and out of the mouth, it starts to scrape away the paint on here. And as I said before, this thing is pretty heavy. And I screwed up earlier when I said that this hand had a hard time holding it in place because these fingers are all separated. There's actually an extra hand in here where the fingers are connected. And, I mean, Genghis has a super tight grip on that thing now. So, I mean, he can hold it extremely well. Look at that. It's like 3D, man. It's like going right in your face. This thing is huge. It really is. It's a huge, very long weapon, and there you go. At least it seems to be a little tight here in the shoulder joint so that he can actually shoot this thing straight ahead. The other thing to mention is that originally when they advertised this, the sights right here, that was painted black to make it look like there was a piece of glass in there. And finally, you have the Radical Razor Sharp Boogie board. I like all the brand new details on this thing. You know, it matches his shirt. They look good. The original one was sort of plain. There wasn't much to it. I think maybe at the time, maybe I didn't even realize this was a boogie board as a kid. I don't know. But you got these like blades down at the bottom, I guess to stick it in people as they're trying to attack you. I don't know. The new one, like, because this is a smaller size, it looks more like that. Like, not only is it a defensive weapon, but it's also offensive. As they're attacking, you can push that into them and hurt them. This thing, the blades are kind of all over the place, so I don't know. It doesn't really make sense to use it as a weapon. It's very big and clunky. If you turn it to the side, that's the side of the blades. Here you can see that the handle is much more sophisticated in design than this original one. The original one, you could fit it into his hand. Oh my gosh, these guys, jeez Louise, this is awful. You can put that in his hand like that, and he holds it out pretty nicely. With the brand new Genghis, what you can do is take this strap. I always pull the hand off first, then put the hand back in. Because, to be honest with you, the pegs on this thing look very small, and I don't know, kind of feel like they would rip eventually. Even the string here is like so small, it's like you can't tell me that this is not going to, pull way too far at some point and either snap or go bad. But just like on the left side, he comes with a second tight gripping hand that you can use to easily grab the shield. I mean, look at that. Even like that little shape there, it's already getting sort of like stress creases. But yeah, this thing is huge, and you can't hold it up. So, I mean, that stinks. It's too big. Like, it's way too large to begin with. If you actually looked at the promo shots, the height of this thing looked like it was around his waist, which was sort of similar to the original action figure. This thing, it's like almost shoulder height. I don't know. I kind of think that maybe this guy is just like an example of maybe less is more or something like that, because I don't know, there was just something nice about the much more compact design of the original one, where you have this small shield, you have the small tongue gun, and you can still see his body, pretty easily. It looks pretty good. Now with this one, he's got these huge items, and like this thing covers up his body pretty much when you're trying to look at him from the front. And the other thing is just super long, and it kind of makes him a little, I don't know, I wouldn't say clumsy. He's just kind of like, takes up a lot of space. And I can definitely feel a little bit the strength of the shoulder joint kind of weakening as I move the tongue gun and his arm around a little bit. I eventually would imagine that it is going to be hard to keep that straight. I don't know. He's cool. I just kind of think that I wish they would have made these items a little smaller like they were originally created. So next up, Genghis came with 3 sets of hands, right? He has these tighter gripping hands that you can use to hold the weapons, the shield, and the tongue gun. He also has these like sort of separated finger gripping hands, which I said before I love a lot because they really appear like frog hands. And then he also has a set of froggy fists. And finally, Genghis comes with this extra head, and I think this head is wonderful. I think the teeth look really great, all the molars and everything like that. I love how the tongue is painted with a glossy paint, just like the eyes and the teeth, I guess. And the gums too are glossy, but it's different than the skin texture. So it just really stands out and looks really nice. And most likely, I'm going to display this guy with this crazy, angry, monstrous looking face. Oh geez, I can't even get it in there. Holy crap, I had to use some hot water to warm this thing up in order to get it on there. But man, look at that face. This is like a demonic frog. You know, like I said, he looks like he's about ready to eat everything he sees. You know, it's also kind of funny that he's got teeth, because frogs don't have teeth, right? Just like turtles don't have teeth. But man, that is crazy looking. I don't know. I like it. You would think as a frog, like his eyes would be to the side, so it kind of makes his face also look more like I don't know, like a dinosaur head or something. Like a monstrous brontosaurus trying to eat people. I don't know, he's very cool looking. And as I said, I will most likely always display him with this freakishly monstrous face. The brand new Super 7 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimates Genghis Frog is an amazing amphibian that I'll never forget. He's covered in fine froggy details, including mucus-filled glands, bulging fingertips, webbed feet, and a face that's both friendly and creepy. Like, he may want to eat me, but when I stare in those big blue eyes, I find myself hypnotized with awe. He does, of course, feature some of Super 7's consistent flaws, you know, loose joints in places that you'd never want loose joints. You know, the shoulders are a problem when supporting his larger weapons, but at least those aren't as bad as the hips. I don't know. It depends, because the shield, he can barely support that thing, and the hips, you can at least balance him to stand up, but just every now and then you might push them a little further than you can go. The hips are nowhere near as bad as Wave 5. Those figures had the worst hips of all, but still, they could be a lot better. I really like the accessories, but not having the removable cola can grenades just makes him seem unfinished, like he's a step back, you know? It makes him feel like an old toy. Like when you were a kid, you used to have toys and people would have items on their belts that you could never remove, and in your head you would imagine like what would be like to take them out. That's what it kind of feels like with him. Like, this is supposed to be an Ultimates action figure. I feel like some of these things that we wished we had as a kid were finally coming to fruition with this series, you know, with paint apps and stuff like that. And here, they're giving you unremovable cola can grenades. It's just, it seems like such a waste of an opportunity. So, you know, other than that, I think he looks wonderful. I think the sculpt is pretty awesome. And I really hope that this isn't the end of the Punk Frogs in the Ultimates line, you know. Hopefully we'll get a Napoleon based off the figure from 1990. And I would love Super 7 to make Attila and Rasputin in a style that matches those old Playmates action figures that we all loved back in the day. One last thing. I showed my son this action figure, my other son, the older one, and he was confused. He thought Genghis was a bad guy because he looks like a fudging monster. So here's a shot that I like to include in all of these Ultimates reviews that I make. And this shot just shows, you know, the original action figures from 1989. And then it shows how they evolved into Ultimates. Now, that's pretty cool, I gotta say, when you, look at them side by side. The only bummer thing, I guess, is that, you know, at the moment, Wave 9 and 10 and, Wave 7 don't contain any action figures from 1989. Originally, Wave 10 included that Rat King that didn't look anything like the Playmates Rat King. But, it's such a bummer that if, 10 is really the end of the Playmates style Ultimates, that we never got a General Trag. Like, that was one of the Playmates action figures that I would have loved to have seen as an Ultimates. Just gigantic, huge, just a lot of rocky detail, all those like, scorpions and spiders and stuff like that painted on his body, it would have been amazing. And, it would have also been very awesome to see Usagi Yojimbo realized as an Ultimates action figure. And you would think that Stan Sakai would sign off on it because it seems like he likes to make money. NECA is making like 10 different Usagi Yojimbo variants, I think, within the next year. So you would think that he would be down with Super7 releasing an Ultimates version of the Playmates action figure, which, looks nothing like Usagi Yojimbo other than that like scar above his one eye. But yeah, hopefully they canceled that Rat King that was originally included in Wave 10. And I just hope that whatever they're currently working on for the future, if he doesn't look like the Playmates Rat King, he at least contains the spirit of Playmates, Lots of gross details, just lots of weird things, They got to remember, these action figures based off of toys made in early 90s when, the gross out factor was just off the charts. And that's a big reason why everybody fell in love with these Ninja Turtle action figures back in the day. So here he is next to some of the other Ultimates action figures. And like these action figures just look great, visually they're all fantastic. Like Mondo Gecko, like the detail and the wash, and the scales and everything is awesome. Just like Slash, just like Rocksteady. Mondo Gecko looks great next to all these action figures. I just wish, and I know I sound like a broken record here, that they would fix the hip problem. Like, if the hip problem was fixed, then, like, so many people, would stop complaining as much as they do about these Ultimates action figures, including me, because that is, like, the big thing that's really holding these back. Like, if they just learned how to tighten up the joints in a way that didn't make them, flop all over the place, they would be perfect. And like even as I've been taking these shots of Genghis here holding his shield, I started to notice that the weight of the shield also weighs down the hip joint and starts to make the leg slide out to the side. It's such a bummer because visually all these guys look great. They look just like you would want these action figures to look. But, that's what you're getting with these guys. You're getting really great visuals, but lackluster hip articulation. And like I said, I don't need these guys to be superposable. I just need them to be sturdy enough to give me the basic poses that standard action figures should have. Running, throwing a punch, kicking, holding their weapon up without their arm falling down to the ground, or just being able to stand without dipping. It's like, Leo here is like the worst out of all of these action figures. All right, so now we get to wrap this thing up with an Ultimates comparison battle. All right, this is where I show Genghis next to all the other Genghis Frog action figures that I own. And I honestly think this is it. I don't think there exists any other Genghis action figures. So let's begin. First, you have the Genghis Frog action figure from 1989, which we've already compared, ad nauseum, these two guys. There's nothing left to really say about them. Just a classic action figure from 1989, now reimagined as this monstrous ultimate action figure. Very cool. I guess I could mention this. I do have a Genghis Frog where the blue shirt has completely faded to green. This is my own personal variant. Do you have one? After that, Genghis never appeared in the 2003 cartoon. I don't think the Punk Frogs were ever in the Adventures comics. So the only toy that's next up is this Genghis Frog from NECA from their Fred Wolf series. And this is a fantastic Punk Frog action figure because with this series, NECA finally finished giving us all the other punk frogs. And I just wanted to put them in here because there's not really much to say about Genghis. But here was a failed opportunity for Super 7, right? Because I believe that Super 7 should have included an axe, right? Because in this Ultimate series, they've included a few other Fred Wolf series items, like they included the stun rifles with the foot soldier that are different than the ones included with General Trag, because they're much smaller and they look more like they appear in the cartoon. And they also included the Mutazoo ray gun with Baxter Stockman. So, to differentiate this guy more from the 1989 figure, I think they should have given him an axe. That would have been great. But now I'm going to have to find some axe somewhere to give him to use. And that's like it, Genghis, he did appear in the 2012 cartoon, but he was much different. He wasn't even the main frog. Napoleon Bonafrog was the main one in that cartoon. So he didn't even get a toy, which is, a pretty big ripoff. And after that, there's only really this little Genghis frog from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem movie. Now, I haven't seen that movie yet. I'm not opposed to seeing it. I just haven't watched it yet. But, look at this little guy. I saw him in the store, and I just thought, that is hilarious. They're like, it may be a simple design, but I think it's pretty funny. And you can stick his tongue out. And look at that. He's got this huge battle axe. Geez, I can take this battle axe and give it to him. But that's it. There's no other Genghis Frog action figures. Poor Genghis. Cool classic character. Look at that. There you go. Now he's ready to go to town on Leatherhead. Or maybe he's going to chop up Baxter Stockman and eat him. This dude is a hungry beast. Oh, you know what? I should show this. Here's how he compares in size next to Napoleon Bonafrog, Colossus of the Swamps. Napoleon here is huge. But he looks, I don't know, pretty vicious. I kind of would put my money on this guy. Look at him. He'd bite this guy and hurt him. This guy looks like he'd start to cry or something like that. Like he'd be like, "Ow, why are you biting me?" Here's Genghis next to just a few NECA Fred Wolf series action figures. And, obviously he does not match these guys stylistically, but I don't know, it's just kind of cool to see him next to some of the other monstrous figures like the Pizza Monster. Here he is next to miscellaneous NECA Ninja Turtle toys. Does he fit in with any of these guys? No, not really. Maybe if you added some black lines, he might fit in with the Mirage line. It would be kind of neat if they if you maybe painted him even more detailed to make him try to look like he would have been a live action Genghis Frog. Imagine just how cool that would have been if he had a mouth sort of like Sweetums or something like that Jim Henson could have made. Man, what could have been. Here you can see how he scales with just a few old Playmates action figures, just in case if you were curious, if you wanted to have a giant Genghis help your Ninja Turtles bash the snot out of Leatherhead or the Shredder, or try to eat Baxter, this is how big he is. He's humongous. Now here he is next to some of Playmate's newer action figures, and what's the future of this line? Is it completely dead now, or what? I have seen, I think, newer Turtles in Disguise action figures, but that's it. I haven't seen any new characters, so I don't know. Should it go on? I don't know. I don't really care. It can be over, in my opinion, and I think that they should start anew. And that's it. Man, there was a lot to go over in this video. I tried to look at this brand new Super 7 Ultimates Genghis Frog as excessively as I could with the original one from 1989. And, I think I learned a lot today, But thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Are you happy with this action figure? Do you think he's really cool? Do you think my criticisms were unfounded or, I don't know, too picky or something like that? Or do you agree with me? Let me know. But have a good one.